My name is Dr. Audra Harl, and I am the ag instructor at Shasta College. Today we are going to be giving a brief overview of an ultrasound machine, the different pieces of equipment, and how you use them with the unit itself. An ultrasound uses sound as kind of like echolocation, similar to like a beluga whale. And what it does is it has probes that will send out sound waves into tissues, and then those sound waves will bounce off of tissues depending on their density, and it'll feed back to the probe, which then translates those images into something that you can see. So we have different types of what we call probes. The two different types of probes that we have today are what are called a linear probe and a convex probe. A convex probe is this one right here. And the reason we call it convex is because it's got this little convex shape to it. A convex probe is kind of what I like to call a general purpose probe. You can use it either for an abdominal ultrasound, or you could use it as a rectal ultrasound. It's good for multiple species, including cattle, sheep, goats, and swine. Because it's got this curve, it gives us a little bit more of a field of vision. So when you put the convex probe into a rectal ultrasound, you point it downwards in the rectum. When you're doing an abdominal ultrasound, you're going to be placing it on the abdomen, pointing it towards the opposite hip from where you are located on the animal. So that is our convex probe. One of the cons of this probe is it's not as high resolution. So you can get a wider range of vision, but the picture is not going to be quite as detailed. This probe right here is what's called the linear probe. You can see it doesn't have a curve underneath. It is pretty much a straight shot. This probe is what we use mostly for rectal ultrasound, and it's a more detailed probe, so it has a higher resolution. We can see more fine details. So if we're looking at blood vessels, say, or the ovary and structures on the ovary, we're going to be using this probe. This probe is used rectally. It's not used on the abdomen because it can't penetrate those tissues quite as well as a convex probe can. The way that these probes translate information is through fiber optics. So when we're handling these probes, it's really important that we don't put any kinks in the probe, because it'll break the fiber optics, and then we've basically wrecked a $3,000 piece of equipment. So we're very, very careful with these probes. We don't kink them. We want to be aware of where they are at all times so an animal doesn't step on them by mistake, or a person doesn't step on them by mistake. To use one of these probes, it's relatively simple. You take your ultrasound unit, so you can plug in your unit here, and then the probe screws in to the unit right here. It's really important to not turn the machine on while the probe isn't plugged in, because that can cause errors in the computer. So you always want to make sure that you turn it on with something plugged in and you turn it off with something plugged in. And after that, you can mess or change with your probes if you need to. In order to turn the unit on, you press the power button on the top, and that should turn your unit on. When you have a working image, it should have these little gray bars at the top, and I usually test to see if my probe is working just by putting my probe on my arm, and you should start to see some kind of gray image. Now, I don't have ultrasound lube on my arm, but you can still see the image kind of pop up on the unit. And that should be an indicator that at least your unit is working. Before you go to ultrasound an animal, especially an abdominal scan, you are going to be putting ultrasound lube on the animal. And what that does is that improves your contact and gives you a clearer image. It allows those sound waves to get through those tissues a little bit easier. Again, this is Dr. Audra Harl, and I am the ag instructor here at Shasta College. If you guys are interested in a career in animal science, you should contact our counselors at Shasta College, www.shastacollege.edu.